I'm delighted to be joined by Oisin Murphy. How are you?
Very well, thanks, Davey. How are you?
Oh, very good, thank you. How are you coping with these tough times?
Everyone's very bored, but what can you do? Obviously, we're fighting something we didn't expect or we never encountered before, but it's very important we stand together and fight it as a unit. Obviously, we have a big challenge ahead of us, but we're all in it together.
Definitely, and I'd imagine you're still kept busy riding out every morning.
I didn't ride out for a long period. I hadn't been anywhere, but I've started again. I think there's a possibility we'll be racing in the near future. So I'm trying to get around and ride as many young horses as I can. It's obviously not easy. Every stable is adhering to the social distancing rules and regulations, but traveling long distances obviously isn't ideal.
No, and you start this year when racing does get back as champion jockey. You must be very proud and delighted that you won that last year.
And it was a lifelong ambition. I know I'm only 24, but I tried really hard for a number of years, and I've got a very decent connection of owners and trainers who are willing to put me up. So without them, it wouldn't have been possible at all. Moving forward, I'd love to be champion again, and then possibly I might look at myself as being champion jockey. But that was last year, and we're in a new year, and obviously we haven't started it properly at all yet. But it would be nice to accomplish it at some stage in the near future.
Like you mentioned, you're only 24, you're still very young, but when you moved to England and you started with Andrew Balding back in 2013, would I be right in saying on Ayr Gold Cup Day when you won the Ayr Gold Cup for Andrew Balding and you had a four-timer, that's where things really kicked off for you?
Yeah, I didn't ever expect to do that. I thought Highland Glory had a chance on the way up in the car. It's like 7 hours from Kingsclear, where I was based as an apprentice, and I thought the other two might run well as well. But I picked up a spare ride along the way, and they all won. And obviously that brought me a lot of publicity and also put me on the map. And Andrew then took the step to try and control the amount of winners I was riding, because I could possibly have got on lots of favourites on a small card at Wolverhampton or Lingfield or one of the all-weather tracks, and I would have wasted my claim. But he tried to ensure that I was riding for decent connections that would support me when my claim was gone, and without him I possibly wouldn't have been able to carry on in my Qatar racing job and go on to riding for many other big stables.
And that winter then you went to Australia and you rode a few winners out there, so that must have been a great experience to bring back, as in, because the following year, 2014, you rode your first group winner that year, and that's the year you became champion apprentice.
I think I was very spoiled. I went to a guy called Danny O'Brien in Australia, who's trained a Melbourne Cup winner. No Irish or British apprentice had gone to Australia before and actually managed to get a license and ride on their city tracks. So I was the first person to do that. Danny gave me 4 winners. Actually, Nigel Blackson gave me 1, but I had a 4-timer on New Year's Day of 2014. That made huge headlines in Australia. They were the best horses in every race. Most of them were favourites, but the chances I got were incredible, but I worked very hard. I didn't have a day off in my 10 weeks there. Sundays didn't matter. I worked evening stables if I wasn't racing, and I thought it meant a huge amount when I came back to Britain.
Was that just because of how races are run so differently over there compared to here?
Well, the first issue was getting a license there. Now it's become very simple, but with visas and everything before, it was virtually impossible. So Danny O'Brien was the first trainer to ever put a European forward, particularly a European who had a British or Irish license, forward to ride in Australian races. So hats off to him.
And then you came back then, obviously you were champion apprentice, as I've said. You won the following year then off being champion apprentice. Off the back of that, you won the German 2000 Guineas, you won the Ebor. Then the following year, 2016, you became retained rider then to Qatar Racing then. You rode your first Group 1 winner on a horse called Acclaim for Martin Mead. And then along came Roaring Lion then. Tell us a little bit about Roaring Lion, how special he was to you.
I was in a big rush to get through my claim and then try and ride group winners, and after that try and ride a group one winner. And it felt like a long time because I was handed opportunities from a young age in group ones. I rode in the Derby when I was 18, I think, Reg Galileo. So I was always given great opportunities, but the group one winner seemed elusive. I didn't ride my first group one winner until a claim won the Prix de la Forêt at Chantilly in 2017. And then 2 weeks later, I won on Blommy in the EP Taylor Stakes in Canada at Woodbine. Obviously, Roaring Lion was just coming through the ranks at that stage, and I was beaten on him in the old Racing Post Trophy at Doncaster, when really he passed Saxon Warrior, and then Saxon Warrior came back past me. But I think looking back at it, I blamed myself, and I will continue to do so. But I didn't hit the front until inside the furlong, so that's a perfectly acceptable ride in most cases. Just I was riding a horse that didn't need to hit the front until very late, and he was travelling well. And in the benefit of hindsight, with the experience I have now, I would have sat on him until the very last second. The same thing Jamie Spencer has done in so many Group 1 races that we admire and watch year on year, reflecting on the past. So Roaring Lion, from that stage to a 3-year-old when he disappointed in the Craven, then he started to wake up and improve. He turned into the most incredible racehorse. The guts and tenacity he showed in the QE2, his last race in Europe before he went to the Breeders' Cup and raced on dirt, proved that really when everything was against him, he could still stick his head out and win. So he's a horse I'll never forget. He's a joint highest rated horse I've ever ridden, him and Ben Battle at 123. So he was, just an incredible part of my life at a very important age when I was trying to make my name as a jockey.
I'll just go back a little bit. That when he started as a 3-year-old season, he started slowly, as you said. He was beaten by Saxon Warrior and Massar. Then he won the Dante over a mile and a quarter, and then he went to the Derby. Was it just a case of the trip of the Derby that you felt that was he wasn't able to win?
Yeah, Davey, I agree with you completely. He travelled better than Massar crossing the road, so approximately 3.5 furlongs from home. When you straighten up around Tattenham Corner, I was still on the bridle, whereas William was starting to move on Massar. I followed Massar throughout the race, but at the furlong pole, I had 0 horse and Massar was just getting going.
And then from then, he went on an unbelievable run of 4 Group 1 wins. He won the Coral Eclipse at Sandown over a mile and a quarter, beating Saxon Warrior as well. Then he won the Judemont International at York. Then he came over here to Leopardstown and won the Irish Champion Stake, beating Saxon Warrior again, which I'm sure he got a great kick out of winning the Group 1 here in Leopardstown. And then, like you said, the Queen Lisby dropped back to a mile then. So at a mile and a quarter and even back at the mile, he was an incredible animal.
Yeah, just very tough. Obviously, he was durable. He had a lot of racing as a 3-year-old. Very sound horse, very relaxed. You could ride him anywhere in a race. You never had to worry about switching him off. He was just very special. I wish he stayed in training at 4. Unfortunately, he was too valuable to the stud market to stay in training, and he wasn't able to fulfill what he would have done. But he has some beautiful foals on the ground that we'll look forward to.
Switching then back to a horse you mentioned earlier, Blonde Me. You're still very young at 24 years of age. You are a champion jockey, but you've rode a lot of winners overseas. I take it you get great pride and great satisfaction at going abroad. Like you won the Japan Cup after becoming champion jockey. Blonde Me won in Woodbine, of course. Benat, he won the Dubai World Cup. He won in Munich. Royal Marine won in France. So there's so many big winners you've rode abroad.
I've been very fortunate to be supported even when the horses travel. So, I do take a lot of pleasure from riding winners in France and Germany and Canada and Turkey or wherever else. But I am riding the best horse in the race very often. So it's just about getting them in a rhythm, making sure I have a plan, and then executing the ride in a way that they're going to perform to the best of their ability, because I'm riding for the best trainers in Britain and they know how to travel their horses. The likes of Andrew Balding has a fantastic record when he brings horses abroad. So it's all very simple. I don't have to overthink it too much as long as I do my homework.
You're very modest, I'll give you that. Another special horse you won on, Deirdre. She was a very good horse too, and she was very impressive when she won the National Stakes in Goodwood.
I saw her this morning. She looks really well. She disappointed in Saudi in getting beat in a race that she should have canted around and won on the bridle. But she's back to her best now. I haven't galloped her yet, but I'm very happy with her condition. She's going to take a bit of an unconventional route, obviously, with the season being under jeopardy with the current epidemic we're fighting. She possibly is going to have to go straight into Group 1. But Japanese horses are capable of taking that workload in the morning. That's going to set her up perfectly. And she gallops very well. She loves the Albahachi. She's trained in Newmarket for the last at least 12 months, if not longer, possibly a bit longer now. And the ultimate goal is getting her to the Arc. The problem is with Deirdre is she has enough quality, particularly with the fillies allowance, to run a huge race in the Arc, but she wants fast ground. The firmer, the better. So we'll be praying in October that she gets rock hard ground, which is unlikely, but please God.
Looking further on then from that, then would they think about going to the Breeders' Cup with her then?
Possibly. On ratings, she'd have won the last 3 renewals of the Breeders' Cup Fillies and Mares Turf. I was gutted she didn't make the trip last year, but that was completely down to the Connections decision. I couldn't manipulate that in any way. But going forward, she's by Harbinger. She's worth multi-millions as a broodmare. She's not going to be around racing for much longer due to that value. So I'd like to make the most of it while we can.
Any other horses that you're particularly looking forward to this year then?
I love a horse called Enemy. I sat in him this morning. He won first time out at Ascot. He's by Muharar out of Prudencia, which is the Magic Wand family, which all Irish fans are going to be familiar with. He's a lovely horse. I think he's pretty good. I don't know how good yet because Gosden doesn't tend to push many buttons in the morning, but as you can see, they've all performed highly on the racetrack. So we're still a little bit in the unknown, but he's doing everything we'd like at the moment.
Very good. And about your weight and everything then, you're very light. Do you have to work on that at all?
Yeah, so I'm about 9'5" at the moment. I would walk around normally about 8 stone 10, so I'm pretty fat. I'm about 9 pounds overweight. I feel fat, mind, and I'm comfortable enough knowing I can get rid of it. I have been walking every day, but normally I'm putting my body under severe pressure. I ride 1,200 horses in a 9-month period, and then I go on my travels all around the world for the other 3 months. So I'm on a little bit of a vacation at the moment, although I'm trying to ride out as much as I can and also watch what I eat. But any jockey will tell you your metabolism slows down the more you waste. So it's going to get more difficult over time. And the less you feed yourself both through food and water, the more you crave things. So it's a gentle balance. And as long as I feel like I'm in control, I'm pretty happy mentally. The worst thing I could do is get on the scales every morning and start wasting now, because the time will come when I have a date, be it 5 days out or 2 weeks out, where I can set myself a target. This is what I'm losing every day, and this is how I'm going to go about it.
Fair play to you. Think about it well. Looking at the big days, do you prepare any differently for the big races compared to an ordinary day at a regular meeting?
So in France, I generally ride horses from Britain that I know how to ride anyway. They're going to go forward. They'll probably race on the pace. I'll probably be allowed to control the race because, the likes of Soumillon, Boudot, Guillaume, Barcelona, they know how I ride, or they'll watch these races because they have access to at the races, or now Sky Sports Racing and Racing TV. It's actually free to watch all these replays. Whereas if you or I are to use Equidia to watch their replays, they have an English version, but it's still not easy to access, and you also have to sign up, although it's free of charge. So that's a turn off straight away. France is my favorite place to ride. I feel comfortable there, and going forward, I think racing is going to become more and more international. It's easier before this epidemic. It's easier to get anywhere. It's easier to travel horses, and long may that continue. I love the international side to flat racing, which unfortunately we don't have in the national hunt sector. But as proud Irishmen, we possibly love that more than anything.
And what is it so different in France compared to the other countries?
Well, the tracks are big. There's loads of space. There's time to think. They train their horses a bit differently. They train them for a turn of foot, so they don't want to jump out and go a gallop and keep going. Whereas when we ride, particularly in Ireland and England alone, we're not afraid to grab the bull by the horns and do our own thing.
I know Frankie Dettori is your idol in racing, but is there any other jockeys that you look up to? And even though you're champion jockey and you've rode so many of these big winners, is there anybody that you go to for advice?
Yeah, many. I'm a huge fan of Christophe Simeon. I think Ryan Moore is riding out of his skin. And if anyone's listened to this, the Kevin Blake Ryan Moore podcast, he reflects on some of the best horses he's ridden over the last 10 years or so. It's really worth a listen.
I listened to it yesterday. It's very good.
Did you enjoy it? Yeah.
I did. It's very good.
Pat Smullen as a rider and a gentleman, absolutely top class. And Fran Berry brought the sport to another level. His broadcasting at the moment is outstanding. I think employing people like him can only grow racing.
Yeah, definitely. Well, listen, Oisin, thanks very much for taking the time. You're very good. And hopefully this year, when racing does get going, you can retain that title, but most importantly, riding plenty of Group 1 winners.
Please God. Thanks very much for having me, David. God bless.
No, brilliant.